Hi everyone, my name is Vikki. I am a recovering codependent chaos creator. You know, sometimes we like to call ourselves controller fixers. No, we don't like to ever call ourselves that. That is absolutely not what we like to call ourselves. And I spent a lot of time, years, probably a decade, really rejecting the word codependent. But that's a topic for a whole other day. So today I really wanted to focus in on the word detachment because I think there is a ton of misunderstanding and there's a lot of negative connotations to that word. And then we try to use the word loving detachment. And, that also is really confusing to use. And so I started by looking up a few words. And so to be really honest with you, I found a reading which was titled Benevolent Detachment. And it was probably the best thing I've ever read on detachment. I had to look up the word benevolent. Benevolent is well-meaning and kindly. And for me, the word benevolent, whenever I've heard the word benevolent used, I've heard it used mostly in regards to like a business or an organization that has like a benevolent focus. And so they would be a charitable purposes rather than profit-making purposes, which is an interesting concept to also keep in mind as we talk about this topic. Benevolent, basically, when we're talking about, people and our intentions, the word kindness is really the word that rose to the surface for me. So my experience with alcoholism, being family of an alcoholic turned raging, binging drug addict, it really is a disease. It really is a family matter. It affects everyone. And that is, really like unavoidable. It's really, you can't live in addiction, alcoholism, and not be affected by it. And so when we think about this word detachment, it's like, well, how do I wrestle that through? Because here I am in this relationship with a person that I really care about, whether it be a family member, a son, a spouse, a parent. I'm in this relationship. Obviously, I love and care for this person. And so I am going to be affected. And so then you're telling me, like, be detached. Well, I just don't even know how to wrap my head around that. And so I wanted to just read a chapter or a section from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Page 104 is the chapter to the wives. That's where the chapter to the wives starts. As wives of Alcoholics Anonymous, we would like you to feel that we understand as perhaps few can. And so they're writing, these are the wives of the people who wrote the book, and they're writing to other wives. And, back then it was just a lot more common that men, it was who, there's a lot of societal reasons, right? The men were the ones who had the jobs, and the men were the one who had easy access to money. And so nowadays we see alcoholism has spread a lot further. And it's not to say that alcoholism is just what affects men, but back in this day and age, it really was mostly men who were being affected. And so the wives of these men are writing to other wives. We want to analyze some mistakes that we've made. We want to leave you with the feeling that no situation is too difficult and no unhappiness too great to be overcome. We have traveled a rocky road. There is no mistake about that. We have had long rendezvous with hurt, pride, frustration, self-pity, misunderstanding, and fear. These are not pleasant companions. We have been driven to maudlin sympathy, to bitter resentment, and some of us veered from extreme to extreme, ever hoping that one day our loved ones would be themselves once more. And it's that extreme to extreme that really stands out for me when I think about detachment. For me, it's like I would get to this place where, like, all of a sudden I would just, I'm so done and I'm not doing this ever again. but most of the time I was very enmeshed. I was entangled in this relationship, and I was extremely enmeshed. You know, the relationship with any relationship with significant ongoing crisis that continues to happen is difficult to escape the emotions and the feelings that come alongside with that. And you know, when we think of enmeshment, you know, we can picture those documentaries or commercials that we've seen of, you know, sea turtles or whales that get trapped in a net, and it's going to kill them, and they have, you know, they have to be rescued because they're going to die. They can't escape out of that net by themselves. And for me, that resonates. Not that I wanted to escape. I really didn't want to escape. I just wanted things to be better. I wanted my loved one to be okay. You know, that's really what I wanted more than anything. And so the difficult thing is that as an adult, adulting with other adults, typically when someone now, you know, 16 years into our recovery journey as an adult, adulting with other adults, when they have a crisis, they generally don't demand that I get involved. They generally don't ask me to call their boss. They generally don't require, you know, want me to hold their money. These are all just, you know, random examples of things that, of course, I have never done. You know, generally, I would never, you know, take the car keys of another adult and throw them over the fence in the dark so that they can't leave. That just, you know, generally in my life today doesn't happen. When someone in my life now experiences a crisis, they don't pressure me, they don't cajole me, they don't beg and plead that I intervene for them. And you know, what really happens, they might need someone to talk to about it. They might ask my opinion and they may consider it, or they might not ask my opinion. They might just talk and just want me to listen and actually not say anything. And that's okay too. And then they might weigh my opinion and they may consider it, you know, for themselves, what they're going to do or not do. Enmeshment makes your problem my problem. So it's no longer your problem, it's now our problem. And for me, as a chronic codependent controller, fixer, chaos creator, I sought problems. I wanted more problems. That sounds so crazy when I say it out loud. And it was really hard for me to come to an acceptance and an understanding of that, because I really thought that I was just this really self-sacrificing, loving, giving person who, you know, if I was really honest, was just a little bit smarter than other people. And if you just did what I thought you should do, then your problems would go away, you know? And when I was with an active alcoholic, boy, he had a lot of problems that really needed help. So I constantly got in the middle, whether he asked me to or whether he didn't ask me to. I inserted myself into many problems that were not my problem. And so I would flip-flop, and this is where, you know, that reading from the big book really resonated with me, of I went from, you know, extreme to extreme, because then I'm trying to, okay, this isn't working. So now I'm going to go to this extreme of like, I'm going to try to shut you out. You know, it's your problem. You figure it out. I'm going to give you the cold shoulder. I don't know how to talk properly, so I'm just going to not talk at all. Or I'm going to blow up and I'm going to scream and yell because you didn't do what I think you should do. I just really flip-flopped from extreme to extreme. You know, thankfully his behavior was worse than mine. So I could just, you know, still feel really good about myself, because I wasn't the one that was leaving for days on end. I wasn't the one emptying the bank account. So I was still able to stay pretty high up on my throne of, what did you call it earlier, John? my throne, from my perch up high on my seat of judgment, there I was. But boy, I could topple over at any given point in time. So when I made a decision that I was done, or that I was not going to intervene, or that I was not going to, stick in the middle, I was unable to stick to any of those decisions. I was unable, completely incapable of stopping my own negative behavior. And it was super easy because I could point my finger at the person who, I had determined was the real source of my problem. I put my demands and my expectations on people around me. And the reality is that as adults, adulting in life together, it's not your job to make sure that I'm okay. It's not your job. And so, I had this like pendulum swing that just continued. So I also looked up the word detachment. And the dictionary definition, it's a state of being objective, aloof. So that I didn't, I had to look up aloof. Aloof is not friendly or forthcoming. And aloof is cool and distant. And, really that's not our goal. That's not our goal as mature adults, adulting in the world together with other adults. We don't want cool and distant relationships with the people that we love. That's not what we want. When I looked up the state of being objective, that means not being influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts. That's the dictionary definition there. One thing that stood out to me is that in my life, I'm often unable to examine facts or consider facts. I was very much controlled and dominated by feelings. I really knew how to obsess and worry, but I was not capable of, considering and representing facts that were not influenced by my personal feelings or opinions. I was just not capable of doing that. Mature adulting means developing an ability to create healthy distance between me and the other adults around me. So as opposed to this enmeshment where I got this picture of like, I am the net trying to trap the whale and keep the whale from swimming away, keep the whale from getting into harm. That, was my life goal. I'm gonna be this net that's gonna like protect, and not just the alcoholic, right? Because my alcoholic got sober, but I wanted to be this net that would like encompass and protect everybody in my life. How much, let me give you advice, let me care for you, let me go over and above, and you need to see like how valuable I am to you. You need to see this. The picture of Velcro is also helpful when I think about, a healthy, detaching, benevolent detachment that is rooted in kindness creates a healthy distance between me and the adults around me. And so it's not like I'm swaying to and fro, but like, am I really designed to be enmeshed with other human beings, with other adults? When we look up codependency and we consider what adult relationships, a healthy adulting relationship, it's actually an interdependence. It's where two adults, and that's well reflected in a healthy parent-child relationship. As a child becomes an adult, the child is actually supposed to detach from their family of origin, right? I'm no longer dependent on my parents to pay my cell phone bill and to make sure that I have food to eat. I'm now an adult, and we've done this with the adult that lives in our home. There was a day where he was like, I would like an iPhone. And I said, oh, congratulations, honey. Do you want to get an iPhone? Yes, I do. Okay, well, let's go to Bell together. and let's go talk to Belle and you can get your own cell phone bill. And he was like, super fine with that. Let's go together. Because, then you can keep your cell phone number. I signed a little paper. I jokingly called it his emancipation. He was 19 years old. You want a cell phone? Great. You want an iPhone, because he had a phone, but it was like the cheapest phone that we could get. It was like free, and he had no data plan. You want a data plan? You want an iPhone? And that became the first cell phone bill, the first bill that he paid as an adult. And never once did I ever check up on it. It's his responsibility. And I did check up on it. I think there was a point in time where, like, a few months in, I just said, like, hey, I just want to make sure that you understand that, there's a date on that bill and you need to pay it by that date. And if you don't, it's going to actually affect your credit rating. And this is what credit rating is. And he was like, yeah, Mom, we learned about that in school. Like, yeah, I'm paying it on time. I was like, oh, okay. And then he got a credit card, and then he had to learn he knew he needed to pay his credit card bill on time. And those were things that he, as a healthy adult, really did. He did them really intentionally, and he was really quite careful about that. If he decided not to, as his parent, I can give him some reminders. I can give him some personal examples about why this is really important and what happens if you don't do it. And if you get too buried, and, we can have these conversations. But if he decides to do something else, he's an adult. I went a little bit off track there. So, oh, good. I still have 10 minutes. So basically, this type of, kindness in detachment, in these healthy adulting relationships that I think all of us want to have with the people in our lives, that's the goal. It's done in love. The actions that I take out of despair are very different actions. When I reach a point of enmeshment and entanglement with another adult who's not doing what I think that they should be doing, even if those are all the right things to be doing, if I start to take actions out of despair, those actions are quite different than the healthy detaching out of kindness and out of love. And I wanted to read in this, one of the things that I love about this group is that we can also bring in the Bible. And so in the Bible, in one of the Gospels, Jesus has been traveling around. He's been traveling around with his disciples. He's started doing some miracles. His disciples, there's tons of people following him and crowding around. And then there's a section in Mark where Jesus just leaves, and the disciples are looking for him, and he's gone, and they find him, and he's like, I'll just read it to you. It says, it's in Mark 1:35-38. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone's looking for you." And Jesus replied, "Let's go somewhere else." And for me, Jesus isn't trying to escape. Jesus isn't running away. But he has this ability to disengage himself from what is happening because he's not enmeshed. He's like, I need some healthy distance. I just need to take a break right now. I need some healthy distance. And so off he went, and Matthew chapter 11, verse 28-30, Jesus says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am lowly and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And this is the picture that I imagine Jesus inviting us into when we're thinking about the concept of detachment. Rest for our souls. For me, it was really challenging to come to an understanding of I can still love this person and not do everything for them. I can still love somebody and not be completely enmeshed with them. I have some adult relationships that in the last few years got a little bit tricky. When I was like, why, when I talk to this person or spend time with this person, I can be spun out for like a couple days. What's happening here? This person is not my responsibility. And there was this entanglement in my heart that I had to reconcile, that I'm actually not God. I felt like I had to do things. There's this saying that often gets used in the church, well, love has hands and feet, and we need to be Jesus's hands and feet. And I'm not saying that that's not true. There's a time for that, but when me being the hands and feet for someone else, when me doing for someone else means that I'm spun out for 2 days, there's a disconnect there, because Jesus said, come to me, you're weary, you're burdened, I will give you rest. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. So when I'm seeing that my burden's heavy, does that mean I'm carrying a burden that isn't mine then? That became really obvious to me. My soul being my mind, my will, and my emotions, is finite and only has so much capacity. Mm-hmm. And especially when I'm exhausted, I make terrible decisions that have got me into some trouble. God is infinite. He has all power. He has the ability to take care of people without my involvement. He doesn't need me at all to intersect, to be involved. God's infinite capacity to care and love and pursue the hearts of people is so far beyond my capacity to love and care and be his hands and feet. And so for me, the concept of this benevolent detachment, of detaching with kindness and love, I had to separate that from but I love this person, so I have to make sure that they see it and make sure that they know it, and make sure that, the reality was that most of the time I wanted to make sure that I felt good about myself. Most of the time I wanted to make sure that you weren't mad at me. And I've come to a new understanding that actually detachment and mature adulting, this ability to have healthy distance between me and the other adults in my life, it's actually a gift that I can give to people. By working my own program, I can react sanely and normally to the other adults around me. My burden is not heavy. I am able to not live out of exhaustion and make poor decisions. And in the big book, when I started doing the work, I was reading pages 85 to 88 every single day. This is the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I know without a shadow of a doubt that I don't have the power to react sanely and normally on a consistent basis without staying close to God. I have to stay close to God. So by working my own program, I can react to other people in a healthy adulting way. And so I wanted to read this section from the big book. And we ceased fighting anything or anyone, even obsessing, controlling, fixing. By this time, sanity will have returned. I will seldom be interested in controlling, fixing other people. If tempted, I will recoil from it as from a hot flame. I will react sanely and normally, and I will have found that this has happened automatically. And my new attitude towards others has been given to me without any thought or effort on my part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. I am not fighting it, neither am I avoiding the temptation to control or fix others. I feel as though I've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. I've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has just removed. It just does not exist for me anymore. I'm neither cocky nor am I afraid. That's my experience. It is my experience from the last couple of years. And this is how I'll react so long as I keep in fit spiritual condition. So in my big book, I've made a little translation. So there's some things that if you're a big book person, you'll see that for codependency, chaos creating, the Al-Anons, we make some changes because our problem is a little bit different than the problem of the alcoholic. It was really important for me on page 87. You know, I needed to remind myself that I actually do need to focus on myself. I actually need to focus on my home, my finances, my health, and I ask God for guidance in each of these areas, but I also ask God for guidance on helping others. And I need to wait. You know, if I feel like I need to do something for someone else, if I feel like I need to get in the middle, I need to ask God for, and I need to wait. So page 87, second paragraph. So we've been talking about like meditating and what our daily practices should be to keep in fit spiritual condition. And it says here, I usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that I be shown all throughout the day what my next step is to be, that I will be given whatever I need to take care of any problems that arise. I ask especially for freedom from focusing on others, and am careful to make no request for helping others only. I may ask for myself if this is tricky. So I ask if others, so basically, I can never read this properly because I've made so many changes, I can't even read it anymore. But the big book says for alcoholics, they're basically so self-centered and have only cared about themselves, but that they need to ask for themselves, however, if others can be helped. But I needed to change that to say, I need to ask God to help others help themselves with God's grace, right? Because my sickness, my disease is that I get in the middle, and I need to not do that. So God, could you help this person, you know, that they could help themselves with your grace? Would you help them to seek after you? Would you help, you know, would they see that you have power that you can give them? And so that became a huge prayer for me, huge prayer for me. And I feel like my prayer that others would help themselves is actually a kindness to others. You know, I don't need to be the one helping them. So thanks for listening. And it doesn't mean I always want to justify, it doesn't mean I don't help anybody. That's a whole other talk.